what really happened behind the scenes until everything changed in a matter of hours. No one is really ready when a seemingly simple moment triggers such a huge wave of global reaction. Even Netflix itself is said to be overwhelmed by the surge that comes without warning. It all started with a brief interaction involving two big names, Taehyung and Jeon Jungkook. No official teaser, no massive promotion, just a moment, which to some may seem ordinary, yet to millions of fans around the world, it felt like a hidden signal that instantly ignited curiosity. And about the same time, pieces of the clip began to circulate. At first only in a small circle, then suddenly burst. The timeline is filled with speculation, theories, and emotional reactions. Many are wondering, is this a coincidence or something that was secretly planned? And then something even more surprising happened. The series, which previously ran quite stable, suddenly jumped dramatically. Audience numbers skyrocketed. Global searches increased sharply. In a short time, the series shot to the #1 position in various countries. This phenomenon stunned many, including industry insiders who did not expect the effects of a single moment could be this big. What makes it all the more mysterious is the timing. Why is it that right after Taehyung and Jungkook's moment, the audience graph goes up so sharply right away? Is this just the overwhelming power of fandom, or is there something deeper that hasn't been revealed yet? Some fans claim to feel something different from the interaction. Gazes, small gestures, to seemingly unusual pauses. Everything is analyzed in detail. Every second becomes the subject of endless discussion. And without realizing it, that curiosity drives more people to watch, find out, and eventually get dragged along in the same stream. On the other hand, internal reports mention an unusual surge in traffic. The system had experienced high pressure due to the rapid increase in access. For a platform as big as Netflix, these conditions are rare without a major campaign. But this time, everything was triggered by something much more organic, an unplanned moment. And therein lies her emotional shock. It's not just about numbers or rankings. It's about how two figures can create a global impact with just their presence. About how millions of people can be connected by one little moment that feels so personal. And about how something seemingly simple can drastically change the course of a story. And it is precisely at that point that everything becomes more and more difficult to explain with ordinary logic. A few hours after that spike, the online discussion changed course. It's no longer just talking about a scene or a storyline, but it starts to lead to one deeper thing. What exactly did we just see? Many feel that something was missed, something that was not caught at first glance. The names of Taehyung and Jeon Jungkook continue to dominate the conversation. Not because of the sensation alone, but because of the small details that keep popping up. There are those who notice a change in expression at a glance. Some have noticed timings that feel too fitting to be considered coincidental. There are even those who begin to put together pieces of other moments from the past, as if trying to find patterns that have been hidden so far. And that's when the pressure began to build behind the scenes. Netflix is reportedly starting to do a quick evaluation. It's not just about the series' suddenly skyrocketing performance, but also how this phenomenon can happen without prediction. In an industry that typically relies on strategy and data, this incident feels like an anomaly, something that can't be completely controlled. More surprisingly, some sources mention that the internal team had tried to trace the origin of the spike in detail. But the more it is traced, the more it becomes apparent that it all started from one common point, a brief moment between Taehyung and Jungkook that has now been rewatched millions of times. Is this just a domino effect of the power of global fandom? Or is it that there is a much stronger emotional factor, something that makes people feel attracted without really knowing why? What is clear, the reaction of the audience cannot be faked. Many admitted that at first they were just curious and then ended up watching the whole series. There were also those who said they did not intend to follow, but somehow ended up getting carried away. As if there is an invisible attraction that is difficult to explain, but real impact. And just when everything seemed to have reached its peak, a new detail reappeared. Some fans began to notice other previously missed pieces. A small gesture, barely noticeable, yet enough to trigger a new wave of speculation. Again, the timeline is filled with reactions. Again, the audience numbers went up. And when many people start to think that everything will subside, it is precisely that a new wave returns, bigger, more intense, and much more emotional. Some fans who were initially just silent spectators are now starting to raise their voices. They hair the moment with a different angle of view, slowing down every second, highlighting every little detail that was previously invisible. Surprisingly, the more one tries to explain, the more one feels that there is something inexplicable. Taehyung and Jeon Jungkook's names aren't just trending. They're at the center of a phenomenon that feels alive, evolving, and hard to stop. Even those who are not part of the fandom are starting to get dragged in, wondering what really happened to create this much of an impact. Despite all this, the pressure on Netflix is growing. The surge in audience that was initially perceived as luck has now turned into a challenge. How to maintain the momentum born of something unplanned. How to explain to the public that this is not part of the strategy when everything looks too perfect for coincidence. And this is where the story begins to take a deeper direction. Some observers have begun to refer to this phenomenon as an emotional trigger event, a moment that indirectly touches the collective emotions of millions of people at the same time. Not just because of who is involved, but because of what those watching feel. There is an invisible connection, but it is so strong that it is able to move masses on a global scale. Then comes the bigger question. Are Taehyung and Jungkook aware of the impact of the moment? There is no official statement. There is no clarification. It was precisely that silence that made everything even wilder. Every silence feels like a hint. Each subsequent small gesture is instantly analyzed. The world seems to be waiting not just an answer, but a continuation of something that feels unfinished. And just when that curiosity reached its highest point, a new speculation reemerged. Now the world can only wait, because if this really isn't over, then what comes next will probably be much bigger, more surprising, and perhaps more difficult to explain than ever before.